Okay, we're on the Jeopardy song.
And go.
All right, call the meeting to order. And I will ask if there are any pecuniary interests to declare. Seeing none, hearing none. We shall move on to item 3, amendments and approval of the agenda. We all had a chance to look at the agenda. And I would ask for Clive to move. Well, anybody to move, but thank you, Clive. Second? Julian, any discussion? All in favor, raise a hand. Carried. So we have the minutes of the September 10th meeting. We had a look at those. And what's your pleasure on that? You again?
I wasn't here.
You can't.
Oh,
I can't.
Andrea will. And Trevor will. All right, any discussion or concerns? All in favor, raise a hand. Carried. So, item 5.1, we have a water 16. Yeah. We have a Water Street North sign permit. And the recommendation is that the 10-16 Water Street North sign permit report be received and that the Heritage and Culture Advisory Committee supports the facade sign permit. And there are some attachments. Who's speaking to this?
I can speak to this one on Jason's behalf. So there's a new business going into this storefront. What they're proposing is the same dimensions as what was there before, and Jason has no concerns in terms of compliance with our sign bylaw.
So there were 2 signs showing here in the handout, or did I get more than I was supposed to?
No, there's 2. There's one just kind of showing where the sign will go, and then a second one with a bit of a mock-up of what the sign is.
Okay. Would someone care to move that we receive and support the sign permit for 10-16 Water Street North? Gary? Second? Julian? Discussion? Oh, Clive?
Other than the 2 pictures, opposite and different pictures, I'm happy with the spirit of the pictures.
I was struggling a little with that myself, but good. We have a comment in favor of the spirit.
Does anybody know what the business is? It sort of looks, can't really tell, just for my own interest.
I started following it on Instagram and I couldn't really tell
Okay.
when I checked the account.
All right, call the question. All in favor, raise a hand. Carried. 5.2 is the December monthly report from Museum and Archives.
Sure. So just a couple of things I wanted to highlight or speak to. We were successful with our 2025 Community Museum Operating Grant. So we just got news about that a couple of weeks ago. As part of our 2026 CMOG application, we are required to submit a new strategic plan for the museum. So we had to submit one 6 years ago, and that's an upcoming requirement. So we've started the strategic planning process. So I will be sending out a SWOT analysis worksheet to everyone on this committee to fill out in the coming weeks. Young Canada Works. randomly reached out to us 2 weeks ago and asked if we wanted an additional $2,000 for the curatorial assistant whose contract wrapped up with us in late August, which is a nice surprise. You're nodding like you understand. So I think what happens is sometimes other organizations don't fulfill their contracts or have an employee quit partway through the year or something like that. So then those who have successfully completed their final reporting get a top up. So that's always a nice surprise. And then kind of the main highlight is that I, since our last meeting, have moved into the role of Director of Culture, Tourism and Engagement. And Emily, our curator assistant, is currently in an interim role of curator and archivist while we kind of work out a long-term staffing plan for the museum. So that's why she's here with us tonight. We wrapped up our fall seminar series with one selling out and one being moved to the Friendship Center to accommodate 42 people. We held it in the main area, like where they do the dining programs in the Friendship Center, and it worked really well. So it's great to know we have that space in our back pocket if we need to move again. We hosted some programming as part of National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So we had Patsy and Day host or share her story titled From Standing Stone to Stone Town, and we had about 20 people in attendance for that. Emily had a very busy fall with the Rotary programming. So we led the seminar on Rotary. Emily was at the Friends of the Library social to talk about not just the history of Rotary, but the process of how we go about researching and designing an exhibit. And then we kind of capped that off at the Rotary Centennial Dinner on October 15th, where she gave a presentation to 97 people on the history of Rotary. So really great exposure for the museum. And then on November 25th, the museum hosted a video interview with 2 community members related to the 80th anniversary of the Rannoch Cenotaph. So that's kind of part of an ongoing project between Township of Perth South and Perth County. And then it was under upcoming here, just because of the timing when I wrote the report, but we had our holiday open house on Sunday and we had about 50 people in attendance. So we're not back to pre-pandemic numbers yet, but we're trending the way we want to be year over year with attendance there. And then we've also just had a really busy couple of weeks with field trip programs. It feels like almost every day. I've been back at the museum a lot the past few weeks to help with that. Any questions?
Curious about the out of town visits up 65% over last September. Is there one specific reason why, or just like what, and where are you seeing people visiting from?
Americans. We're seeing a lot of Americans. We also, I think our attendance numbers are directly tied to how well the Stratford Festival is doing. So if they extend a bunch of their shows into the fall because they're doing well, we reap the benefits of that as well.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, so would someone care to move the recommendation that receives this report? We've heard from Amy and have circulated. Julian, second. 5. Any further discussion or comments? As always, lots of effort going on there. Nice to see positive trends. All in favor? Carried. So 5.3 museum policies update, and that makes up pages 13 to 68 of our handout.
Not quite. There's
Oh, okay. Did I miss something?
public arts.
Oh yeah, there's a public art.
61.
Oh, there you go. How would you like to process this? Has everyone had a chance to read the material that was circulated?
Sure. So I can just give a high level introduction in that we were due to update our policies and decided to just do them all at once. So some of the changing we made to all of the policies was to update the wording to reflect the new department. Coincidentally, I last updated these policies in 2020. And I think a week after they got approved at council, we had a municipal reorg and the department and everything was no longer up to date, like a week after they got approved at council. So we've just been operating with them saying Director of Corporate Services, even though it was Director of Community Services for the past 5 years. So we tried to kind of future-proof any upcoming changes, not that we're anticipating any, but just use kind of looser language in that, saying like the department director instead of the director of a specific department, and the advisory committee instead of the museum board or the museum advisory committee. So we try to make those changes to all of the policies, and then kind of more specifically, we tried to look at all of the policies through the lens of the findings of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and kind of added content to reflect the Canadian Museum Association's stance on this as well. Now that we've gone through a major deaccessioning project, there were kind of some lessons learned there on what worked and didn't work with our previous collections management policy. So Emily did a really great job of doing a deep dive into that one. And then adding content about dangerous materials and firearms. So this is something that came up recently with a member of the public with some items in our collection. So we wanted to just make sure that the policy was more specific there. And then just adding content regarding the responsibility of the museum to share kind of previously overlooked history in our exhibit policy. And then pets, again, since COVID, people seem to think that their dogs should be able to go everywhere they go, and we're getting far more visitors with dogs wanting to enter the museum. So again, just specified that in our conservation policy that unless it's a service animal, they are welcome to wait outside.
Or stuffed.
But yeah, if there are any questions, concerns, things we missed, we're happy to make notes.
I was just curious on page 21, the end of document date stuff. I didn't fully grasp the red part at the end there.
Oh, that's just like the next time it's been a review. So
Right.
that's like kind of our internal tracking table.
Right, so it just, on the April 9th, 2019 line, item row line 5, it says initiated April 9th, 2019 by AC. And then underneath it, it's AC October 2025. I just wondered is there a format?
Not
It's
really.
just whimsical,
Yes,
as long as we know who AC is.
as long as you know, yeah.
So it's not air conditioning installed October
No.
2025, okay. I noticed things like that where the format is changing and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Sure,
I'm
well,
not
we
sure.
can go back and make that.
I don't know,
very
I'm just curious.
easily. That's not a big deal for us to fix.
No, nor I, just curious.
And if you ever get audits on this type of thing, like, so obviously you set standards because, some of the definitions, like, for example, ethical behavior is what I
Yeah.
like, so do you get audits from the government museums to make sure this up for your funding?
Yeah, so as part of our CMOG application, so this year it'll be a strategic plan, but typically it's a policy or 3 policies that we have to submit, and they're reviewed by the ministry. And they're either approved or they come back to us with feedback to change.
Okay, thank you.
And then I also noticed, sorry, excuse me, I also noticed that there's a reduction of minor seasonal events from 4 to 3 as a minimum.
Yes,
And I just wondered what the thinking was there. Not
so,
that you can't have 4, 3 is a minimum, but I was
Yes.
just curious.
so again, pre-COVID, we were doing these major exhibits, like especially in our 2 green rooms, we were doing 4 exhibits in there every year. And we were, a lot of staff time and a lot of effort was going into those, and we weren't necessarily seeing the return on investment there with repeat visitors throughout the year. And that was also something that was identified in the last core services review that the town did, that reducing the number of large scale exhibits we're putting on, frees up staff time for some of our other core functions.
And the minimum review period's changing from 3 to 5. Is that conforming with a
This,
plan for your next promotion or?
no, this is, when anywhere in 3 to 5 is acceptable.
Yeah,
I've done this as kind of a kindness to myself and Emily,
Yeah.
because looking back over the 18 years I've been here, we have never hit that 3-year increment. So I
Yeah.
thought, let's make it an increment that is more realistic with
Yeah.
what we're doing.
and if that conforms with the museum land world of this is okay, then I share your enthusiasm for not overcommitting. Anybody else seen anything that caught their attention?
Yeah, question on page 23, individual / interest group exhibitions that churches were removed as an organization on that list. And just looking for some rationale behind them.
I think just given that the challenges that some of our other departments have run into with religious groups looking to participate in or community events and things like this. This is not to say that if it were the Catholic Church's 150th anniversary this year, we wouldn't partner with them on an exhibit, but I just thought by removing it, it might help us say no to those ones that don't align with our values and visions of the museum.
Understood. Thanks.
Yeah, it's interesting because it does say not limited to, but the removal did seem noticeable. Anything else? Yes, Carl.
I read it, there's some grammatical stuff, which I'm sure when we read back through it again, you'll correct, which is fine. And I was just thinking about the public art one. And I was just thinking about, I read an issue that they had in, I think it was the Netherlands with like, I don't know how you describe it, but reverse cleaning. So they're using stencils on the floor to clean tattoos on the sidewalk and stuff.
Okay.
Right, so you take a template, put it down, you take a spray wash and spray over it, right? And you create like go here and go there type of things.
Like power washer art.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you know how, so a lot of places will ban you from spraying something on the ground or chalking on the ground or that kind of thing, but cleaning on the ground is not bad. Anyway, they had an issue with that. But that's cool. Maybe that's temporary art, but I just noticed we don't have the policy doesn't talk about temporary art installations,
Okay.
approved or not approved.
Right.
That would be a non-approved temporary art installation, right?
Right. I'm not sure what to say to that.
No,
one,
I just,
like,
that's just a
where-
thought process.
Yeah, because I thought about that too, like, after Heritage Festival, there's often like wonderful sidewalk chalk art that stays until the next rain. Yeah,
We have another problem, but I guess it's not an art thing, but it's that a lot of the stuff is covered off and says that if it's not under the public standards, no, the property standards.
property standards, yeah.
So maybe we could add that in.
Okay. If you have like grammatical things, please pass them along to us. So.
I can go back through it. I think it was just one
Oh.
section. Most of it read really well. There was one section that was off. I'll
Sure.
find it and come
Yeah,
back to it.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, 5.3, the recommendation is that CETO 2025 museum policies update report be received, and the Heritage and Culture Advisory Committee recommends to council that the following policies be approved as presented.
Yeah, I'm sorry, one last question. I'm okay with that, but so what kind of fees? So we're taking, I don't think we ever discussed fees, but fees are coming out of the remit of this group and going directly to the council instead.
Yeah.
So those would be fees on the concerts and that type of thing?
No, because those are all by donation. So we're admission by donation. Our concerts are by donation. We have set fees for things like photocopying, printing, high res photos, research fees. So if a genealogy researcher asks us to do like full service research for them. We charge by the hour for that. Field trip programming, we have a set fee, so yeah, things
We
like
now
that.
just fall in line with the town, right?
Exactly, and it's like universal, like whether you come into our building, the library, or wherever else to make a photocopy, it's the same fee across the board. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. All right, thank you.
So would someone care to move on the museum policy update? Andrea, second. Julian, any further discussion beyond what we've talked about? All in favor? Carried. Moving on to the public art monuments update, policy updates, 5.4. We touched on it, but perhaps you could. Have anything that you're concerned about? It seems to be much less pervasive
Yeah, well, this one was
because it's
before.
pretty new. too.
Exactly, so this one was before this committee not very long ago. But at the same time, the Rec Culture and Leisure Master Plan was recently passed, and I brought those recommendations to this committee earlier this year. And one of the recommendations in there was to update this policy to reflect Indigenous heritage. So kind of knowing that was a task of mine to get done before the end of the year. I also just took the opportunity to make some minor adjustments based on the fact that we now have implemented a public art project with the wraps, the utility boxes downtown. So again, just some minor wording there to reflect how that went.
All right. Would someone care to move the recommendation that CET 03-2025 Public Art and Monuments Policy Update Report be received, and the Heritage and Culture Advisory Committee recommend to Council that the Public Art and Monuments Policy be approved as presented?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
beforehand?
You can, and you can even ask after.
Well, let's start with before.
All right.
That streetlight post banners are excluded from public art. Whose purview do the street banners fall under now?
It depends whose project they are. So I know the BIA is working on some right now, so they would just review that. And again, they would get reviewed at the staff level to make sure there's like not something offensive going up or something like that. But that was identified as a program that was kind of in place before before this policy came into place, and there's been quite a bit of discussion back and forth at the staff level, and we've opted to kind of keep the process the way it is for this.
Okay. Thanks.
So would someone care to move the recommendation as outlined?
Does the downtown heritage call not supersede that though?
It could. Yeah, I know it was a long conversation because again, the Christmas lights go on the light posts every year, and those have never come to this committee for a heritage permit, or now that they're fancy shooting stars, are they considered public art? So yeah, it's a fair question. But yeah, where staff landed was just if it's going on the lamppost and it's something that's kind of been in existence, we're gonna keep it in this policy.
But the presence of it being excluded from this policy, I'm not sure whether the question relates, you're talking about a heritage permit because of the Heritage Conservation District?
Like a heritage permit or a public art permit,
Okay.
like those things are just, they've never come to this committee
Right.
for review.
Okay, so the intention is that you won't start that.
The way in which I read it that helps is that it won't fall under this policy. But if for some reason someone in this committee didn't like it, we can talk about it as the heritage district,
True.
right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to go through us, there's no extra red tape. If something goes bump in the night, then we do something kind of like that. The street furniture stuff, right? We just did.
So my hope is to get a motion and then we were gonna finish our discussion, but we can't seem to let go of the discussion. So would someone care to move this motion? All right, thank you, Andrea. And Trevor is kindly adding second. Any further discussion or concern? in favor? Carried, thank you. I know I'm anxious for a council report, Mayor Strathy.
Okay, Councilor Lucas is much wiser than me because he's somewhat informed, but, so council has been a busy time of year. We have essentially finished the budget other than, you know, going through the community grants section. We came in around a 3.88% budget. Council is also, going to revisit our strategic priorities, 2026, of course, being an election year. If anyone's interested in talking to, any of the councilors about things on their mind, perhaps even this committee may want to look at initiatives to support the Heritage Conservation District, such as the Heritage Tax Rebate that council has never actually successfully passed, and something that might want to be explored by this committee. And staff, I'm sure, are quite familiar with it and could bring them up to date on that. There's been a number of changes in the provincial government. I'm attending a meeting on Friday about the conservation authorities and what the mergers mean. And the reason I bring this up is that it could have a large effect on our heritage district, our Heritage Conservation District, in that the goal, well, I think, you know, it's like anything, could be good and bad. It could standardize some practices across the province, and we could see things like that are happening in Elora, for example, development and, you know, initiatives to improve the downtown that we're unable to do. You know, and I had this conversation with someone today, for example, a building like the Ball Building, which, you know, is incredibly beautiful but hard to maintain, should probably have 10 apartments in it. But right now, we have a stumbling block with that, with the conservation story. So there are, you know, while this government's been one that has moved so quickly, it's frankly quite impossible for staff to keep up with all the initiatives every time you turn around. There may be some positive things that could come from this, and it may be something that this committee could talk about in the future in terms of a policy to help the conservation through advocacy, but also encouraging council to implement different policies that would help the downtown. That's the reason I want to touch on that. Apparently Queen Street West was open. You know,
I got a text from my mom this afternoon.
yeah, so people are quite excited about that, and, you know, we're very thankful that was a very unfortunate situation, an emergency repair, but it actually went very smoothly. That the contractors were excellent, in my opinion, and worked, you know, through the weekends and so forth to get it done. It will be rough over the winter, but it's open. The other thing that is happening that may interest this committee is, and you know, Ms. Mackel was at the rep on 14 Church Street development, as well as Amy was along for the development of the concept. They have launched a fundraising campaign, and I'm not here asking for money, but there may be some thought given from this committee in supporting the endeavors and explaining the vision to members of the public, and there may be some discussion on that, because I think there's some opportunity not only for the library, but also for this committee in showing public art and working in partnership with the museum for seminars and presentations of culture and so forth. And some of that strategic thinking could come from this board as well. So I wanted to mention that. And other than that, I think that we're into the Christmas season, and hopefully things go well into the new year.
Thank you, Mayor Strathy. And if someone would move that we receive the verbal report from Mayor Strathy. Sherry, second. Clyde. Any questions, further comments? All in favor? Close your eyes out. Okay. All right. Well, it looks like we've skipped over Christmas and New Year, and we're going to have a meeting just before Valentine's Day.
Yes, so there was council has approved their council plus committee schedule for 2026. So a number of our committees are moving to quarterly regular meetings with more frequent meetings should we need to. So our next meeting would be February unless like an urgent sign application or something like that came up in January. And then again, it's May, right, Amanda? Yeah, so it'd be February and May. And again, as Mayor Strathy noted, we're going into an election year, so that would probably be our last regular meeting in May. Unless again, something urgent comes up before.
And the election is October something, but it's October, right?
October.
Okay, just a minor thing that it should say 2026, but I'm sure that will be figured out in the minutes. When we get past Christmas and the New Year. All right, so upcoming meeting, Wednesday, February 11th, 2026, and quarterly thereafter, subject to summers and elections. Would someone care to move adjournment? Andrea, second. Julian, did you talk outside before? Because you've won the award for